day out there to all my listeners. I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I am your host. My name is Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for those new listeners out there, because my listeners already know that this is a podcast about individuals who are ready to move forward in their lives, overcome obstacles, mitigate those self imposed barriers that's preventing you from living your best life on your terms. And we talk about topics related to personal and business development and self improvement. And today, our topic is going to be about foundation for all authentic and sustainable leadership. And who we have today is Regina Huber, who could better yet could explain that she is an expert in leadership. And I am so looking forward to our conversation today. And I'd like to welcome Regina to the stage. Welcome, Regina.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. I am delighted to be here with you today and to hopefully inspire our audience together.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Inspire, empower, and even maybe do some transformational things today, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, my listeners, let me read about this. Is just a little, she has much more than this, but let me read Regina's bio. She is the founder and CEO of Transform Your Performance, TYP. Regina Huber drives bold, value driven, and heart centered leadership. She helps leaders reach their next career goal all the way to the C suite to increase their impact and to reduce their stress so they can enjoy good feeling success. Her electric experience on 5 continents started in Germany and includes leadership positions at BCG and ownership of business in Argentina, Brazil, and the United States. This shaped her into a multicultural, transformational leadership coach, international inspirational speaker, and author of Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. She has co-authored 3 other books and wrote numerous articles for magazines in the United States and Africa. She was featured on TV in Africa, Latin America, and the US, where she also hosted her own TV show. Regina created 3 signature coaching frameworks. Powerful Leadership Transformation is one of them, PLT, the New Paradigm Leadership, NPL, and Get Your Dream Salary. And she is a conversational intelligence enhanced skill practitioner. Again, Regina, welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, and my first question to you, I'd like for you to share a bit about your journey that brought you to where you are today.
Absolutely. Let's just start at the beginning.
Okay.
I grew up in a tiny little village in Germany of 10 houses near the Austrian border. And I've always been incredibly curious.
Mm.
So this curiosity, I think, also sparked this adventurous spirit that I believe also inherited from my dad's lineage as well. And my dad couldn't always travel as much, but I did it for him. I sort of caught him up as I was moving along, in my life. But this curiosity really pushed me out into the world. And this is how I also really have gathered my multicultural experience, right? So this eclectic life of mine so far, it has happened mostly on 4 continents, although I've done work also on other continents, right?
Wow.
And they are Europe, the US, so
Yeah.
North America, Latin America, and Africa more recently as
Wow.
well. Yes, and I love traveling, and that's why I'm currently actually in Lyon, France. Every 3.5 or 7 years, for some reason, Cassandra, I gotta make a move. and
Wow,
sometimes,
interesting.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes the 3.5 years are even composed of individual moves, but I have found that my life somehow could be split up into 3.5 and 7 year chapters.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. That started at age 19. But anyway, so I, of course, didn't always travel because I grew up on a farm and we didn't travel that much when I was a kid.
Mhm.
But later on, I try to, again, catch up for that quite a bit. At 19, I moved to Munich, and then I moved to Spain for the first time abroad at the age of 26. And I was really, really lucky that somebody saw leadership potential in me
Oh,
during the year that followed, because just 10 months later, and after literally just learning Spanish and moving there, I was promoted into a leadership role.
yeah.
Now, for that, Cassandra, I didn't really have any relevant background or studies,
Yeah.
but as so many other people, I've learned a lot by doing in life. It's
Yeah.
a great, great lesson. I was lucky to work with amazing people, a wonderful manager also who challenged me a lot, and but this really, really helped me, gain a lot of leadership knowledge. Of course, later I also read up on it.
Yeah.
I informed myself in other ways, but from there, then I helped the company open a couple of offices in other countries, right? First in Portugal, and then in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And that's how this whole international traveling and journey started, right? Now,
Yeah.
later on, I owned my own businesses. I founded my own business also in Argentina and Brazil.
Wow.
We don't need to go into all those details,
Yeah.
but it gave me certainly a lot of learnings as well. I was dealing at times with corrupt authorities. I added a ton of resilience to my repertoire for sure,
Yeah.
and just different experience, also leading different types of teams, dealing with all the different cultural personality, all the different cultural aspects and
Yeah.
the different personalities,
Yeah.
and of course completely different situations. And then in 2011, 2012, when I eventually moved to New York City, that's when I had to somehow figure out how to package all this eclectic experience into
Yeah.
something meaningful,
Wow.
a new business. And
Yeah.
that's how Transform Your Performance was born. This coaching. So I've specialized in transformational leadership coaching, as you said before. So
Yeah.
it's a coaching, training, and speaking business that
Yeah.
I founded. But of course, it didn't all happen in a day.
Sure.
No, it's a
Sure.
path,
Yeah. That's right. It's a journey, right?
right? It's a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And over time, we grow as we move along in our journey. As we, I always like to say I grow with my clients
Mm.
because they teach me just as much as I teach them, just in a different way. This is how it's all come together.
Wow. What a vast history. Wow. And different cultures. That's just amazing. You know, even though I know you inspire and empower, but I'm just fascinated about one of your signature programs. And
Mhm.
I love the fact that you have this PLT, the Powerful Leadership Transformation. I want to know more about transformation. Like, inspire doesn't necessarily transform. So, empower, and if it does, it's not sustainable. Like in our title today, we talk about foundations for all authentic and sustainable leadership. But could you tell me, like, um, a little bit about the PLT? I want to know, what methodologies do you use to transform individuals?
Yes, I have a lot of potential starting points to answer your question, of course.
Okay. All
I
right.
want to just first of all say that this PLT, Powerful Leadership Transformation framework, is very much focused on self leadership, because I believe that self
Mhm.
leadership is the foundation for all sustainably effective leadership and for all authentic leadership. We can
Mhm.
only authentically lead others when we know how to lead ourselves.
Yes.
Anything else would be preposterous, in my opinion.
Yes.
And we can be maybe even successful short term when we're when we're not able to do that, but not in the long term. And we're talking about long term, as you
Yeah.
just mentioned. Now, self-awareness is, of course, the precondition for all successful leadership. And
Hmm.
because what how can we be authentic, Cassandra, if we don't even know ourselves, if we
Yeah.
have not practiced haven't gone on a journey of self-discovery, if we haven't
Hmm.
practiced self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And how can we project who we are through our leadership presence if we
Mhm.
don't even know who we are? And that's why I think self leadership and self awareness are so, so critical for any leader. Now, this framework gives us 4 pillars
Mhm.
that can help us get to a higher level of self leadership, and then also project this higher level through the way we show up in front
Okay.
of our teams, in front of top management, anybody really that gets in touch with us, all the different stakeholders. Yes.
Okay.
Now, as I said before, in order to gain self awareness, we have to go on a journey of self discovery. And this journey consists of self observation, self reflection, introspection, but
Mhm.
also the observation of how we are perceived.
Yes.
Yes. And we are going, as we're moving along in this framework, we are literally figuring out a lot of different things about ourselves that we might not always think about.
Right.
As I said, the framework has 4 pillars. The first pillar is a self empowering mindset and heart set. And this is why I loved when when you mentioned that I love to work with sorry, with heart centered, not self centered. Oh my God,
Yes. Right. Right. Got it.
centered leaders, for
Yeah.
that reason, because I believe that the mind is usually as its best when it's led by the heart. Yes, mindset
Mm.
is super important. It has to be a self empowering mindset.
Mhm.
But when we don't connect with our hearts, are when we are when we don't really connect with that courage, that intuition, and that very unique wisdom that we all gather through our unique experiences in our hearts, then it's much harder to show up as that heart and people centered leader,
And
right?
that's where you talk about the authenticity because a lot of people struggle with that self-discovery. I'm curious to why is it so tough for people to get to know themselves, or either is it because they don't want to be exposed?
Well, self awareness is a state of vulnerability.
Okay.
When we go on this journey of self discovery,
Yes.
that can sometimes be a bit scary,
Hmm.
Cassandra,
Yeah.
because of course, we will probably discover things that are not perfect,
Right.
things that we don't like about ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
But the thing is, we are not supposed to be perfect. We are just supposed to recognize our shortcomings and to see what we can do about them. For example, if we are easily triggered and we get angry,
Mhm.
or we get too emotional in certain situations, then it's a good idea maybe to think about why that's happening,
Exactly. Okay.
and to really recognize our triggers in the moment so that we
Mhm.
can then respond to them more consciously with more awareness rather than reacting to them um, in a
React.
way that we don't really want to react.
Yeah.
Yes. And once we gain that awareness, it just really helps us to
Mhm.
become more emotionally intelligent at the same time,
That's good. That's good.
right?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about, my listeners, and, as you know, the title of the podcast is Your Way in Your Way. And
Mhm.
that's a definite in your way, because because I liked it when you said vulnerable. Who
Yeah.
wants to be vulnerable? Who wants to confront those things that have probably got them stuck, because these are listeners who, when I say they have obstacles that they want to get out of their way because it's preventing them from maybe being an effective leader, it's preventing them from maybe owning their own company, being an entrepreneur, preventing them maybe from getting out of a relationship, preventing them from being promoted because that they're in their way. And I love the fact that you talked about, and I don't think I've heard this, how you want to be your self leadership. It's always leadership for others, but it's kind of like what you're saying is you have to know yourself before you can help and lead other people. So so what are some of the struggles that people that you're leading and coaching and training are having? What are the struggles that they're having?
Well,
The
a lot of,
challenge, I guess.
yeah. So a lot of people come to me because they lack visibility in their careers, for example. So they want a promotion, they're not visible enough. That's where also one of the pillars of this framework comes in, and I call it a body and energy conscious presence. We
Hmm.
talk so much about executive presence, about leader presence, about business presence, but what is that really?
Yeah.
It's of course composed of many, many different aspects, like our body language, our appearance, our
Mhm.
outfit, our voice, and
Yes.
so many other aspects. But what we oftentimes forget about is our energy.
Yes.
The truth is that our
Mhm.
energy flows into anything we say, we do, and how we show up, right? Even
Mhm.
into our thoughts. It's really important to be aware of our energy and to ideally also optimize our energy before we go into meetings, into negotiations, into presentations, or any
Mhm.
other challenging situations in business, really. And there are some simple tools that we can use to do that. And some of those
Yeah.
I've also compiled in my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. And they're not only about energy. Okay, there's a big variety of tools because I wanted to these tools and techniques to speak to different people, of course. So
Yes.
it's a choice. But I do believe that it's really, really important to also consider our energy, and not just the level of our energy, but the
Mhm.
quality of our energy, right?
Okay.
That's my point. We so often say it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression.
Yeah.
But in reality, it only takes 0.07 seconds for our brains to figure out whether we can trust someone.
Oh, wow.
And that's about our energy.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
our energy speaks faster than our words and louder than our words. When our
So,
energy contradicts our words, usually our energy wins.
right. So how do people, and I know attitude has a lot, but how do people create that energy? Because I hear that a lot. I hear people say, I don't like their energy, or I don't want them by me. So how is that energy created?
Well, of course, a lot of the energy is created unconsciously. And
Oh,
that's exactly the point, right?
mhm.
Because we communicate on an energetic level all the time.
Yes.
There's no way to avoid this. We are just not always aware of it, but our subconscious picks it up, and sometimes we don't know why we feel more comfortable or more uncomfortable around certain people.
Exactly.
It is a lot about the energy, because maybe they're hiding something from us, or maybe
Mm.
they are they are even having thoughts that are about us that are not really nice thoughts, and we pick it up through the energy, although they don't
Mm.
even say a
Wow.
single word.
Wow.
Or
Wow.
maybe sometimes you might have experienced that yourself, Cassandra. Sometimes we go on a train and we're fine before we go on the train.
Yeah.
We have hardly spent 20 seconds on the train and we feel different
Yes.
because we're picking up people's energy.
Energy. Wow. So it's about that awareness too, right? To kind of be aware, it's kind of I know and I read somewhere where you talked about why attitude is important. Does the attitude play into the energy as well? Because I think
Absolutely. Our
Yeah.
attitude is also felt fed by our. It's fueled by our energy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything really. That's the important thing to realize, important fact to realize, and that's why I'm always surprised about how little we talk about energy in business and
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, I've
Right.
asked myself very often why that is. Now, of course, it's not only about the energy, right? It's also about other aspects. It's about our behavior, our words, everything else. All of this plays into our business presence, into our presence as a human being, as we show
Yeah.
up. And we want to optimize this presence so that we become more visible in business, so that we create this what I call positive visibility,
Yeah.
because it can also be visible in a negative way. Of course, it doesn't
True.
really serve us.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
And you talked about blocks earlier, barriers.
Yes.
Now, this all also has to do with your mindset, of course. And that's why I put the emphasis on self-empowering mindset. Victimhood or victim mode does not serve anybody. That's just something that we need to realize.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we go through an extremely difficult situation, we, of course, may feel devastated in the moment. We may feel pain, but then there's always a moment when we have to pull ourselves out, out of that hole by our own hair, so to
Yeah.
speak, and say,
Yeah.
look, if you stay in this mode, you're not going to get to a better place. So how can you get to a better place? How can you self-empower? Because I believe that we cannot really empower others. We can only empower ourselves. And we
So,
can look to people and turn to people who can help us, guide us to empower ourselves. But
mm-hmm.
we got to do our part, right?
Right. That's interesting about you, how you said you don't empower, you can't empower others. Do you think we can inspire others?
Yes, absolutely. I also personally believe, and maybe that's because I like to dissect words.
Yes.
I always
Uh-huh.
question, I'm a curious person, so I always
Yes.
question things. I also believe that we cannot really motivate others, but we can
Mhm.
inspire them. That's why I also don't call myself, or wouldn't call myself, a motivational speaker
Right.
necessarily. I
Right.
think the motives are inside of us. What motivates us, is inside of us. Our power is already inside of us. We
Yeah.
just are not always connected with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're not connected with our power, then it's as if we want to maybe watch TV without plugging in the power cord. So we
Yeah.
have to sometimes remember to plug in our inner power cord.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that power is already inside of us, and that, yes, we learn from other people. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we have a coach, a mentor,
Yeah.
or a friend who helps us along in life. But if they can do whatever they want, if we are not willing to connect with our
Yeah.
inner
Yeah.
power, we're not
Right.
going to get very far.
Right. It's kind of like we have to want it as well. It's just like for my listeners, they are, I always say from a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in living your best life? And where would they rate themselves? And it's all over the place because I don't think many of them have really thought about what is it going to take for them to live their best life. But however, whatever it is, they not only have to be aware of it, but they have to want it. They have to be hungry for it. It's just like you talked about inspiring and empowering. I want to hear again, how do you transform?
Mhm.
How do you do that?
Yes. So transformation, I want to say this first. Okay. This is important. Transformation is not about becoming someone else that you're not.
Okay.
Transformation is showing up as the best version of who you already are. And
Okay.
that's a gradual process. It doesn't happen from one day to the next. It also does not mean you have to be perfect. That's
Mm-hmm.
another misconception sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is becoming fully aware of your value,
Okay.
knowing your strengths, but also your shortcomings, and then looking at how you can somehow address them.
Okay.
You don't have to be an expert in everything. There's other people too, and we're all different for a reason.
Right.
That's
Exactly. Thank
not
God.
what addressing shortcoming means
Yeah.
necessarily. Yes, you could surround yourself with a team who compensates for some of the skills you don't have, but
Right.
you still need to be aware of what your value is. I say this in the following way usually: know, own, and show your value. That's part of that transformation. First, we have to know our value so we can own it, and then we can show it. Yeah,
Nice. I like that. Know, own, and show your value. Uh,
absolutely.
wow. So I bet that speak up, stand out, and shine has a lot to do with that, about that book, right?
Yes, in the book, I have compiled some exercises and tips and tricks and techniques that helped me in the past to just get
Mhm.
to a better place when I didn't feel confident or when my self esteem was extremely low at one point in my life. And I had
Yeah.
to come up with those tools so that I could go out, network more confidently, so I could start speaking about my business, so I could host my own events and speak at those so I could train people and so on and so forth, right? So that's when I came up with those tools, and the tools are about how to mentally, physically, and energetically prepare for challenging situations in business. This is what the book is about, because later I think later I thought that these techniques and tricks and little crutches that I created for myself at the time,
Yeah.
they I figured they could also be
A
helpful
tool.
to other people as well,
Okay.
and have been. So that's what the book is mostly about. Um, but of course, we were talking about this value, right? So to come
Yeah.
back, because I think this is a very important topic for
Yeah.
most people. How do you own your value? Especially also women, they often told you have to own your value, you have to own your value. But how can you own it if you don't even know exactly what it is?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's why we gotta dig deeper sometimes, especially if we want to show up as leaders
Yeah.
in our career, in our business, in life.
Yeah.
Because we gotta distinguish ourselves. We
Yeah.
need to be aware of what our core values are. How do we represent them? How can they shine through us rather than us telling everybody that these are our core values, right?
Exactly.
Which is
Exactly.
not really what they are for. So we want to be really clear and dig extra deep on what I call our distinctive uniqueness if we want to be leaders.
Right. Now, Regina, let me ask you this. And I know we don't have enough time to do this, but for my listeners, could you give us a tool or an exercise or something to think about how we can determine what our value is? Because as even as leaders, even as people, we are so modest. We don't share or
Mhm.
talk about things that we do well, so is there like an exercise or a tool to help us determine how to go in deep on what our values are? Because you're right, if we see ourselves valuable, we will behave very differently. um,
Yes.
so anything that you have in your toolbox that you could share?
I usually recommend very simple things to start with.
Okay.
Start with lists. Write down a list of all your accomplishments, all your achievements so far in life. And
Right.
don't stop before you get to 50. And I know you have more.
Yes.
Okay. And then look at that list and consider this thought. If I have accomplished all these things in my life so far, what else can I accomplish going
Mm,
forward? Because we all have gone through challenges that we thought we would not be able to overcome or move
yeah.
through.
Yes.
You tackled them. And, accomplishments are sometimes about painful situations. Sometimes they are about celebrations. It could be anything.
Yes.
This
That's
is a
good.
great list to start. But another list that you definitely should have for yourself is a list of all your talents, your skills, your relevant stories, experiences, your abilities, things that other people value in you, things that you value in yourself. And
Hmm.
maybe you want to even send out a little survey to your friends and make it anonymous and ask them for 3 adjectives that describe you.
Yes. Good
Put
tip.
those lists together, look at them, and then maybe circle the ones that are most valuable to you.
You. Hmm.
You know,
Right. What a great exercise. I think I'll do that exercise myself.
yes, you would be surprised with what some people come up with that they
Yeah.
didn't think was an asset. I call those your unique assets.
Right. Yeah, that's it. And also, you use the word brilliance a
Yes,
lot, which I think is
yes.
good. Coach people into their unique brilliance and better leadership of self and others. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's your unique brilliance. No one has that same brilliance because no one has the same background as you. You are unique for a reason. No one has your DNA. That
Right.
no one is that package that you are.
That's right. That's right.
And no one has your potential, and you are meant to live that potential in your very specific and unique way. Because everybody has this unique genius, whatever you want to call it, greatness, brilliance, whatever your favorite word is, I don't
Right.
mind. But we all have it. That's a
Okay.
fact.
Okay. Um, that was a great exercise. I love that. I'm gonna actually do that over the weekend. Do my little 50 items of things that I've accomplished. Um,
Yes.
yes, I'm definitely going to do that. Um, you've heard of, I think I've read that they were like seven leadership attitudes. And have you heard of people say, and your attitude is, like I remember, in my career and I was managing and leading and managing other people. And someone would say, well, they have such a bad attitude. And then somebody would say, but that's perception. That's their perception. Could you distinguish or share what you meant by the attitudes has they're important for leadership?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just posted actually something on LinkedIn where I shared 7 leader attitudes that I find are important, but there are certainly more. Okay.
Yes.
One of them is, for example, as leaders, we serve. you
Yes.
know it's a serving attitude. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to be the authoritative control person as a leader. That's not the type of leader I want to be, at least, and
Yeah.
that's not the type of leader I want to work with. We want to work with value driven leaders,
Yeah.
right? with,
Yes.
with heart centered leaders. So you serve the people you lead. You
Mm-hmm.
serve, that's what your job is, for
Yeah.
example, or the I can attitude, so that you can then also transmit that to your team, to the people around you. The solution based attitude, rather than always just looking at the issues
Right.
and the problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are
Mm-hmm.
just a few examples. There are many, many more. And if you're saying, okay, it's just about perception, as you said before, well, as leaders, we also have to evaluate to see if there's a gap in perception between how we perceive ourselves, our words, and our behavior, and how others
Yeah.
perceive us, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's a gap in perception. How can we amend this? How can we bridge this gap so
Yeah.
that we actually come across as how we want to come across.
Yes, right, right, right. You've given so many great tips. I wanted to know, did you have one more, like for my listeners, like a takeaway for them that they can take action on right away, like a call to action that they could do besides the list of the 50 accomplishments? Because remember, these are individuals that they're different things. Like we said, some of them want to be promoted, some of them want to change jobs, but they don't have they're just stuck. They're not doing it. They know they're unhappy in doing that, unhappy within the job that they're in, but not taking a step to move out. There's some that need to, association brings about assimilation, get out of certain relationships. There's some that want to relocate, that want to move, but they just can't. These are some of the things that people have decided that in order for me to live my best life, this is something I'd like to do, but they can't. They're just stuck. Is there any call to action, anything that could help my listeners?
What comes to mind is, first of all, a statement that I want to share is we are all much more capable than we think we are.
That's
Really
good.
important to remember, because we're all conditioned and programmed with limiting concepts. We know this, right? So we're not going to go in too much in depth with that right now, but
Yeah.
we need to just acknowledge it. And I would suggest that you start getting curious about what else is in your potential that you
Mm-hmm.
might not even have considered yet.
Mm-hmm.
So just get curious, write things down that you're passionate about.
Right.
Why would you like to change your situation? What's your driver for that?
Yes.
What drives you? What's that why?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
go from there and start by designing your ideal day. What would that look like?
Yes. Okay.
With those basic ideas, you can then start building your vision. Because a lot
Mhm.
of people I know do not have written visions, but it's really paramount to have a written vision.
Mm. Okay. Without a vision, people will perish, huh? How important.
Yes, because
Yeah.
as some people say, "Oh, I have a vision; it's in my mind." No, that's a blurry idea.
Right.
You need a written vision. It's written in present tense. It's written as if it were already happening,
Right.
almost like a mind movie, and
Yeah.
it's written in an ideal state. And the other thing that's important is you're not using words like "I want," "I wish," "I will," because
Should. Yeah.
present tense. So
Yeah.
write down that vision, even if you have some gaps in it, that's fine. It's a work in progress,
Mhm.
but it will inspire you and encourage you to take the next step. To
Mhm.
it basically reprograms some of parts of your subconscious, and
Yeah.
it takes some of the limitations out of it. And this is how you change your subconscious filters, and it gradually helps you find the courage to get to that place where you take one step and one step and one step and one step, one after the other. And
Mhm.
that's how we all make progress. It's not always a leap, sometimes it's a step by step progress.
Yes. Yes.
Also, turn to people for help if
Mhm.
you need help, because a lot of people think they have to do it all by themselves. That's not true,
Yeah.
right? Connect with your heart, find out who that person could be.
Yes.
Maybe you need a coach, maybe you need a mentor, but maybe you don't want to invest in a coach right now and you just need a friend sometimes.
Yes.
That's
Right.
fine.
Mhm. Excellent. Excellent advice. Regina, how can my listeners get in touch with you?
Yes, I have my website, of course, transformyourperformance.com.
Mhm.
A LinkedIn Career Growth Strategies newsletter, which is free and full of resources. I write an article every week,
Mhm.
and you find it on my LinkedIn profile. I have a YouTube channel, again, with free materials, free resources
Okay.
at Regina Huber, very easy to find. And then my book is on Amazon. It's called Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Well, that's great. You have been very insightful. You have given us so much information. And I know that this podcast, this particular foundation for all authentic and sustainable leadership, many people will want to listen to this. So I encourage my listeners to please share this. They could get so much out of this. And I just want to thank you so much, Regina, for your time, for giving your insight, for giving yourself understanding, your the conscious efforts, the transformational stand up, be own your power, show your power, act on your power. It was just tremendous, and I'm so appreciative. So, with this, I'm going to end our podcast, and I'd like to thank you again, and I want to thank my listeners for listening, and God bless. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me, and thanks to everybody for listening.
Thank you.